This is a video about why you should not even code your MVP. And I make this video because last night I got a call from someone who needed some coaching, some advice for a startup, and basically wanted to build a platform. And I had to tell them in a couple of steps that what he's trying to build is actually not a software problem. And these are the slides we have today. But before we start, my name is Till Carlos, and my ultimate goal is to help you ship software faster and better quality and with cheaper cost. And today we're going to talk about how you can do this with MVPs. And this is a video that you might want to share with someone who is stuck in a software. You're not even sure if they're actually addressing the real problem. The first thing I want to say is that it's probably possible to hack your way through the problem without coding anything. Any kind of startup idea you have that sounds like a great software might even be possible to do without building anything. For example, you could just tie Excel. You call up people, ask them for their problems, try to sell them something or try to list them into your great platform startup, and then you put them into a list and then you call the next people. And once someone is interested, you can then forward them your list that you have. Just an example for certain kind of businesses, especially platform businesses where you have a marketplace of two groups that want to buy from each other. The second thing is anything that you have where you just need something simple like database application, you can probably ask someone to code or take a WordPress and bend it at your will so that you have some kind of input and some kind of output. Usually you don't need any kind of fancy SaaS software for that, any kind of no-code tool, any kind of starter kit of Next.js, whatever SaaS. Usually you don't need those things. You can just take a WordPress and hack it and put some nice landing page on it so that people understand what you want. And that probably will show you that your idea is not that great even. Another thing we can do is just use WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger and play the human chatbot. So it might look like it's automated, but actually you are behind the scenes and pulling the strings and getting the data for the people. The great thing is you can test out if someone actually wants to use that. If they don't know that you're behind this thing, then they might even use the chatbot as they would use any other chatbot, and you get a lot of data. And you don't need to build anything. This is the most important part. And the last thing, if you really need to code something and it's not a game or something, can you ask someone to apply some no-code tools for you? There are a bunch of software tools out there like Bubble and Retool and anything like those. You can probably hack your way into an MVP and you don't need to have any kind of fancy stack, any kind of Node.js or TypeScript or Ruby on Rails application. So the next point I want to address is that if you actually decide to code, usually coding distracts you from the main problem. And this is what I had coming yesterday when my person inquiring, they wanted to hire someone to code with them. And I told them, once they hire that person is going to need, let's say, half a year if they're good and 1 year if they're a bit slower. Constant management, constant looking into that, constant product work, constantly making sure that things work well, and then they ship it. So it will be 1 year where the whole operation is blocked, and basically it distracts them from a real problem. They wanted to build a platform startup, like a marketplace of two sides they wanted to interact. And for that, being a software is possible, and there are many softwares out there that do that kind of thing. But the problem is that it would take, let's say, around a year to get this off the ground. The next thing I wanted to address is that if you code, it's an expensive way to test. So what we want to do in any kind of startup setting is we want to cheaply test something, ideally without spending any money, and if we spend money in the least amount possible, and really only the money we need to spend, for example, buying ads. And even that can be circumvented by just hitting people up through cold email. The person asking was not a wealthy investor. They were an employee who wanted to, or a freelancer who wanted to now go to the next step. So those things are definitely something that everybody in that situation needs to take into consideration in order to increase the runway of their life in the startup world. If you really need to code, try to do only a proof of concept. So let's say there is a technical problem you want to address. It's nothing trivial. It is some technical hard thing to achieve. Focus on the proof of concept. And I have an interesting example for you, because what we try to do, we try to build a self-hosted Loom alternative. So basically a software where you record your screen and then you share this with your friends. We call this Cliptil, and it's quite simple. You record your screen and then you share this. So it works well. If you see here, it loads these videos somewhere in the asynchronous way, and it's quite pretty. I like it. But the problem is this: the developer was not courageous enough to only focus on the main problem in the beginning. They wanted to get it done, so they build the stuff around it first. So this is why this thing is kind of nice now. The main problem is the recording feature and getting that done right. And this is also the problem. I don't need to show this right now, but basically when you go here, you can record this, and these message boxes, all these are problems that the developer did not solve. And now what we're doing, we're rebuilding it, and it basically is going to be a rebuild in this case, Next.js, React, in order to get the first functionality right. And if that works really, really well, and you see here how we are trying different things and uploading to Amazon and stuff, once that works, then we can put everything around it. And it's the same with the startup. Focus on the most important problem. That's the make or break thing. And when you figure that out, when you find a solution, then you can build everything around it. Problem with engineers is that they often like to do this around thing because it's the easiest. Then I wanted to talk about if people actually know what the business they're in. So there's a story from my hometown around 15 years ago when I had my first software agency. I met this guy who was the CEO of a company with, I think, around 100 developers. And we were talking a bit. I told him, yeah, we have like 10 developers. And he said, okay, so you want to run your agency? Okay, cool. The way you're doing it right now looks like you're kind of winging it yourself with a couple of friends. That's cool. But where do you actually want to go? And do you actually want to build an agency? I said, yeah, I want to. He said, do you actually know in what business you're in? And I said, yeah, we build software products for other people. And he said, no, this is not your business. Your business is to scale manpower dynamically up and down. That got me thinking. And he was right, because this is exactly what agency work is. It's about finding clients, and then you balance your load of whatever manpower you have, workforce you have. You balance that with the client demand. Yeah, and that opened my eyes. And now I noticed that I'm actually not in the building cool stuff category. I'm in the category of hiring. It's an HR machine, and we provide resources. In case you already started your software project, you can hit me up. I do some free coaching sessions now in August and September. And if not, there's a cool video that you can watch in order to increase your time to build the MVP.